By the time I realized my marriage had cracks in it, I'd already memorized every line of the floor plan. The worst part wasn't that it fell apart. It was knowing I'd spent years convincing myself the walls were solid. My name is Daniel Walker, and I used to believe you could design stability the way you design a house. I'm 38, a residential architect in Portland, Oregon. My days are steel, glass, timber, and math. You do the calculations, you follow the code, the structure stands. Simple, clean, predictable. I thought life worked the same way if you were disciplined enough. My wife, ex-wife now, was Brooke Harris when I met her. Brooke Walker later. Corporate attorney, downtown high-rise, sharp suits and sharper arguments. She walked like she was late to something important and talked like every sentence needed a closing statement. We met at some bland networking thing about zoning revisions. I went for the free beer and the chance to complain about setback regulations. I left with her number and a feeling I hadn't had since my 20s. It moved fast. 3 years, start to finish. First drink, last signature. There was a Willamette Valley proposal because she liked Pinot and I like scenic angles. I remember getting down on one knee between rows of vines, dirt on my jeans, sun hitting her hair just right. She didn't cry. Brooke doesn't cry in public. But her mouth trembled once, and she said yes like it was a contract she was happy to sign. The wedding was at the Botanical Garden. 200 people. String lights, rented chairs, overpriced flowers. I wrote my own vows because if I was going to promise something, I wanted it in my own words, not copy-pasted from some template. My dad, a man who thinks feelings are a private hobby, sniffled once during them and thought no one saw. I saw. The first months of marriage were quiet in the best way. We fell into routines that fit us. Weekdays were early alarms, coffee, separate commutes in opposite directions across the river. Nights were shared debriefs at the kitchen island, her war stories from court, my sketches and 3D models. Weekends were grocery runs, house projects, and the occasional overpriced restaurant to prove to ourselves we were still fun. I catch myself looking down at the band on my finger while brushing my teeth or stuck at a red light. Just this simple ring. After years of dating that felt like bad drafts of the same design, I actually pulled this off, I think. Solid woman, solid marriage, solid life. Nothing flashy. Just right. My little brother, Josh, floated around the edges of that life like background music. He's 26, freelance video editor, the kind of guy who lives on energy drinks and external hard drives. He'd come over some Sundays with his laptop, dumping old family footage onto my Wi-Fi because it was faster than his. He'd talk about codecs and timelines, and I'd nod like I understood more than half of it. To me, he was just another normal detail in a life that finally felt designed instead of improvised. A kid brother chasing gigs, a wife chasing billable hours, me drawing homes for people who trusted I knew how to keep their roofs from caving in. Back then, I really believed I'd built something unshakable. I hadn't learned yet that the weak point in any structure is never the part you calculated. It's the part you assumed. It was a Thursday, middle of the dead zone afternoon where your brain runs on autopilot and your mouse moves but nothing really lands. I was at the office in Lake Oswego, working through a design for a high-end, sustainable house. Clients who wanted floor-to-ceiling glass, but somehow also maximum privacy. I had Revit open, elevations on one monitor, structural notes on the other, coffee cooling untouched. My phone buzzed on the desk. Family group chat. Josh, found some old videos. Check out how hilarious Brooke's bachelorette party was, LOL. I didn't flinch. I didn't feel anything. Just a small, automatic smile. I remembered that night as background noise. A story Brooke and her friends would reference when they were drunk. Lots of laughing, not a lot of detail. I'd never pushed. There was a link. 32-minute video file. I tapped it. At first, it was exactly what you'd expect. Rented hall in Northwest Portland. Bad uplighting. Pink gold balloons. A bride-to-be banner drooping in the back. Brooke in a white dress. Tiara crooked. Holding a plastic champagne flute. Amanda and Kelsey are already loud. Already 2 drinks ahead of everyone else. I watched her laugh. Head thrown back. Eyes crinkled. Cheeks flushed. She was doing some dumb game with a blown-up ring and a blindfold. I actually chuckled. A couple of the women gave toasts. Sloppy jokes, inside stories. Don't break her heart, Daniel type lines. Felt harmless. Embarrassing, but harmless. Around the 12-minute mark, the tone shifted. The phone camera jolted. Someone yelled, "Okay, okay." She doesn't know. On-screen text popped up. Surprise. Then he walked in tall, dark hair, black dress pants, white shirt tight across his chest. The room screamed. Someone wolf whistled. Right. Stripper. Bachelorette cliches. I felt a small flick of annoyance and forced it down. It's what they do, I told myself. Stupid party thing. Whatever. He did what those guys do. Oversold confidence, cheesy moves. Brooke sat in a chair, laughing, hands over her face at first. The noise in the room was constant. Shrieks, phone cameras, drunk commentary. Then I watched her pull his tie. Not an accident. Not. He leaned in and I froze. Her hand, deliberate, fingers around the fabric, tugging him closer. She settled into the chair, let him move against her like she'd rehearsed it. I felt my jaw tighten. At 13:40, she reached up, grabbed his face with both hands, and kissed him. Not a joking peck, not a dare. Full, deep, unhurried. The room exploded screams. Laughter. Someone yelling, "Damn! Brooke!" I didn't hear any of it. Everything went silent in my head. A second later, the camera angle shifted and I saw her stand, take his hand, and pull him toward a side door at the back of the hall. The phone followed for a couple of steps, caught the corner of his grin, her back, then lost them as they disappeared off frame. The video kept rolling. 15 full minutes. I watched the room stumble along without her. More drinks, bad dancing, random small talk. No bride, no stripper. When she came back into frame, her dress was wrinkled, lipstick smeared off, hair slightly out of place. She looked light, loose, like someone who'd gotten something out of her system. She sat back down with her friends. Amanda leaned in, said something in her ear. Brooke laughed. That dazed, floaty kind of laugh. Someone yelled, "Finally!" Like a punchline landed. I checked the time bar. 15 minutes gone. Back at my desk, my mouse slid over the plans without me. I rewound to 13:40. I watched the kiss again. The way she pulled him in, not the other way around. Rewound. Watched her lead him out. Watched the empty space they left. For years, I trusted who she was when I wasn't looking. Now I had 32 minutes of proof that I'd been guessing. I don't really remember the rest of that workday. I know I stayed. I know I clicked things. I know people walked past my door and said stuff. But all I saw was that chair, that tie in her hand, that 15-minute gap you can't explain with oops. By the time I drove home, the video was burned into my head frame by frame. I was sitting in the living room when she came in. Lights low, phone in my hand. The video paused on that exact moment, her mouth on his hand on the back of her neck. No context. No wiggle room. The front door opened. He's hit the bowl. Her heels clicked on the hardwood. "Hey!" she called, light, automatic. "How was?" She walked into the living room, saw my face, then followed my eyes to the phone screen. Everything in her shut down at once. It was like watching a power grid blow, light, then nothing. "Daniel," she said quietly. "I can explain." I didn't say anything. I just hit play. Let it run. The kiss. The hand. The door. The empty 15 minutes. She watched, hand over her mouth, eyes shiny but dry. It was stupid," she blurted when it ended. "We were drunk. They pressured me. It didn't mean anything." "The kiss?" I asked. "Yes, the kiss," she said. "It was just a moment. I got carried away. Everyone was screaming, and they were chanting, and the 15 minutes? I cut in. The dress. The lipstick." She blinked. Panic flickered. I watched her eyes move, not searching for truth, searching for a route. "I felt sick," she said. "From the champagne." He helped me to the back. I was in the bathroom. We just talked. I wiped my lipstick off. "That's it." I looked at her. "You felt sick," I repeated. So you took the stripper with you to the bathroom. She swallowed. It sounds bad. I know how it looks, but nothing happened. I swear to God, Daniel. I watched her carefully. Not the words, the micro-twitches, the calculations. She wasn't confused. She wasn't trying to remember. She was trying to build a story fast enough to stay ahead of what I'd already seen. I need space, I said finally. She stepped forward. We can talk about this. Please. I'm sorry. I'll never. I'm not doing this right now. My voice came out flat, like I was reading specs. I'm going to the office. I'll sleep there. Her face cracked. You're leaving? Over this? Daniel, it was a mistake. It meant nothing. You're my husband. Can't we just? I picked up my keys, my overnight bag. I'd already packed before she got home. That surprised even me. At the door, she grabbed my arm. Please don't go. We can fix this. You already told me what it was, I said. I just don't believe you. Her hand dropped. The office couch is too short and the cushions are worn. That night, it felt like the only honest place in my life. I lay there in the dark, phone in my hand, watching the same section of that video over and over. Each time I caught something new. A friend's face when she disappeared, the timestamp, the slight smear on her thigh when she came back. The more I watched, the clearer it got. Her story didn't fit the footage. And once you realize the person you sleep next to can look you in the eye and lie that smoothly, it didn't mean anything stops being a comfort and starts being a warning. I didn't sleep much on that office couch. I just lay there staring at the ceiling tiles, feeling something ugly but clean settling in. I couldn't trust a word out of her mouth. By sunrise, the decision was made. I didn't want apologies. I wanted facts. On my drive home to shower, I called a number I'd saved months earlier and never thought I'd use. Frank Miller, former cop turned PI. An older architect in the firm had used him during his own divorce and described him as expensive, blunt, and worth it. Frank picked up on the second ring. Voice like gravel. Miller. My name's Daniel Walker, I said. I was referred to by Tom Hutchins. I have a situation with my wife. He didn't say I'm sorry. He said, tell me what you've got. I laid it out in a flat voice. Bachelorette video, kiss, 15-minute disappearance, her story about champagne and just talking. No emotion, just data points. I'm good at those. He listened, then asked 3 questions. Date of the party, full legal name, maiden name. No judgment, no surprise. I can identify the guy, he said. If he works for a company, we'll have him in 48 hours. A deeper background takes longer. When we hung up, I felt not better, but less crazy. Like I'd handed the mess to someone whose job was to separate truth from bullshit. Monday morning, he called back. Your stripper's name is Tyler Brooks, Frank said. 29. Works as a stripper and personal trainer. Hired through a company called Platinum Nights. Let's just say the reviews suggest he's popular with clients. There was a pause. Look, he added. There's one line I can't cross for you, but you can. Check her phone. See if his name or his handle shows up. If there's more, it's probably there. That night, Brooke took a long shower after dinner. The kind where the fan runs and the water stays hot. Her phone was on the nightstand, screen down. Same passcode she'd had for years. She'd never bothered to hide it. She never thought she had to. I picked it up. My hands were steady. Instagram. DMs. It didn't take long. Tyler's handle popped up in her messages. Weeks before the party. Flirting. Jokes about giving her a preview so she wasn't shocked. She sent him a picture of the rented hall, laughing about what my innocent husband would say if he saw this. Then messages after the wedding. Motels in Southeast Portland. Short, to the point arrangements, days, times, room numbers. No romance. Just logistics. I scrolled through the attached photos. Dimly lit rooms, cheap headboards, patterned comforters you'd never pick on purpose. Her face, his torso, fragments of bodies and sheets. Nothing you'd mistake for anything else. Timestamps that lined up perfectly with the meetup messages. I forwarded everything to my own email. Screenshots, dates, usernames. Evidence, not guesses. Then I deleted the trail, cleared the recent folder, closed the apps, put the phone back exactly where it had been. The shower shut off. Pipes groaned. The cabinet door clicked. I sat on the edge of the bed, my phone in my hand, hers face down beside me, and understood something simple and cold. I wasn't paranoid. I was late. The next day at work, I functioned like a machine with a cracked screen. I answered emails, took a meeting, signed off on a set of drawings. Nobody noticed anything except maybe that I was quieter than usual. Meanwhile, my phone sat in my pocket like a live round, screenshots, timestamps, Tyler's handle, motel names. Proof. By the time I drove home, the decision wasn't whether this marriage would survive. It was how cleanly I could cut it loose. I walked in to the smell of garlic and rosemary. Brooke was at the stove in one of my t-shirts, making my favorite roasted chicken, potatoes, green beans. The whole good wife picture. She turned, smiled, like nothing in the world was off. "Hey, I thought we could have a nice dinner and I saw the messages," I said. The words sliced the room in half. Her smile dropped. "What?" I set my briefcase down, pulled my phone out, and laid it on the counter between us. "Tyler Brooks," I said. "Instagram. DMs from 3 weeks before your bachelorette party. Motel meetups in Southeast after the wedding. The pictures. The dates." Her hand went to her mouth. Her eyes went shiny fast this time. "Daniel, Don't say I can explain," I cut in. "You already tried that. This time I want the truth." She stared at the phone like it might bite her. Then her shoulders slumped. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, yes. I kissed him at the party. Yes, we had sex." "How many times?" I asked. She shut her eyes for a second. When she opened them, they glossed with tears. "3, she said. "The party, and 2 times after. At the motel. That's it. It's over now. I swear to God. It's over." I let the number sit between us. "Why?" I asked. That was the only word that mattered. She gripped the counter like the answer might be hiding in the granite. "I don't know, I freaked out. Okay? Everything felt so perfect. Our life, the wedding, the house. You're so stable, Daniel. So good. I felt like I was disappearing into this perfect thing, and I got scared I'd never feel anything again." I laughed once. Sharp. "So you went and rented feelings by the hour. That's not fair," she snapped, then pulled it back. "He was just adrenaline. No expectations. No pressure. It wasn't about love. I love you. I always loved you. He was just sex," I supplied. She winced. "Yes, just sex. A stupid, selfish way to feel alive for a second. I know how it sounds, but I swear, it didn't mean anything compared to us." "Didn't mean anything," I repeated. "You keep saying that like it makes it smaller." She stepped toward me, tears running now. "Please, we can go to therapy. We can work through this. I'll cut him off. I already did. I'll change my number. I'll do whatever you want." I watched her, really looked. She was terrified. But it hit me that she wasn't terrified of losing me as a person. She was terrified of losing the life attached to my name. The house I bought before her, the stability, the reputation, the narrative she'd built around being Brooke and Daniel. "I talked to a lawyer," I said. She froze. "What?" "Before I checked your phone," I said. "Before I knew about the motels. I had a feeling I'd need one. Papers are drafted. You'll be served soon." She shook her head like she could knock the words out of the air. No, you can't, Daniel, this was a mistake. Terrible mistake. People come back from worse than this. Don't throw us away over." "I'm not throwing anything away," I said quietly. "You did." She reached for me. I stepped back. "You had 3 chances to choose me," I said. "At the party when you pulled him out of that room. The first time you went to that motel. The second time. 3 separate moments where you could have stopped, turned around, and gone home to your husband." My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "And every single time you chose yourself. You chose the hit, the rush, the secret. Now you're not upset about what you did, Brooke. You're upset that you got caught and that the bill's coming due. She covered her face and sobbed, the kind of ugly crying she never let anyone see. Please, Daniel. I'll do anything. I can change. I can. I believe you're sorry, I said. I just don't believe you're safe. We stood there in the kitchen with the chicken in the oven and the timer ticking down like some sad joke. I'll move my stuff out over the next few days, I said. I'll stay with a friend until the paperwork's done. My lawyer will handle the rest. Don't try to spin this. Don't try to smear me. I've got everything I need on my phone. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. Maybe she didn't. I picked up my briefcase, turned toward the door. Daniel, she said, voice breaking. You don't love me at all? After everything I looked back once. I loved you, I said. But I'm done loving someone who treats my life like a thrill ride they can jump off of whenever they're bored. I walked out to my car, heart pounding, throat tight, vision clear. I was shattered, yeah. But underneath the wreckage, there was a strange, solid line. One decision that finally felt like it was mine and not some story I'd been talked into. She didn't love me. She loved the life I built. And I wasn't about to let her keep living in it. A few days after the kitchen showdown, I was in my office staring at a site plan that refused to resolve in my head when reception buzzed. Daniel, your wife is here. Says it's urgent. I almost told them to send her away. Instead, I told them to put her in the small conference room. Neutral ground. She was sitting at the end of the table when I walked in, elbows on the wood, something small and white clenched in her hand. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying for hours. Daniel, she said, please sit. I didn't. Say what you need to say. She opened her hand and set a plastic stick on the table like evidence. 2 pink lines. I didn't need the box. I'm pregnant, she said. Her voice trembled just enough. It's yours. For half a second, less than a breath, some buried part of me twitched. Old wiring. The idea of being a dad, teaching a kid to throw a ball, build something, look at a drawing and see more than lines. It flickered. Then the dates lined up in my head like hazard lights. I looked at the test, then at her. When did you find out? I asked. 2 days ago, she said. I wanted to tell you in person. I thought maybe this could change things. When was your last period? She hesitated. 6 weeks ago. I don't track it that closely. I did the math. Our sex life had been thin for months. Meanwhile, I had motel dates burned into my brain 3 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. I want a paternity test, I said, before we discuss our baby. She went pale. Are you serious? Daniel, you really think I don't think, I said. I know you slept with him. I know when. I know how many times. I'm done taking your word for anything. We'll do an early test. If it's mine, I step up. If it's not my problem or my responsibility. She leaned forward, desperate. It is yours. I know my own body. I know when. You didn't know enough to keep your clothes on with another man, I said. So forgive me if your sense of timing doesn't reassure me. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Fine, she whispered. We'll do the test. But you're going to feel so stupid when it says you're the father. Then I'll apologize, I said. Until then, this is just a positive stick and your word. And your word is worth exactly 0 right now. The week waiting for that test result was a strange kind of limbo. Part of me hoped it was mine. Not because I wanted her back, but because the idea of my kid existing without me involved felt wrong. Another part of me, the colder part, was sure the math wouldn't lie. The email came in on a Tuesday afternoon. No fanfare, just a notification from the lab. I closed my office door, sat down, and opened the PDF. Probability of paternity, 0%. I stared at the number. It didn't feel like a punch. More like a verdict everyone already knew, finally read aloud. I picked up my phone and called her. She answered on the second ring, voice tight. Did you get it? It's not mine, I said. It's his. Silence. I could hear her breathing, then a small sound, somewhere between a sob and a curse. I hung up. The next day, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then I saw the transcript and called back. Daniel? A woman's voice said. It's Carol, Brooke's mother. Hi, Carol. I heard about the baby. Her tone was clipped, controlled. And about the test. Yes, I said. It's Tyler's. There was a long exhale on her end. I want you to know something, she said. I'm furious. Not at you, at her. She's always been impulsive. Selfish. We thought she'd outgrown it. Clearly not. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. If this goes to court, Carol continued, if she tries anything stupid, I'll testify for you. About your character. About hers. You were the best thing that ever happened to that girl. And she threw it away like everything else. Thank you, I said, and I meant it. When we hung up, I leaned back in my chair and looked out at the gray Oregon sky. My wife was pregnant with another man's kid. Her own mother was on my side. The test hadn't just answered a biological question. It had closed a door. 0%. Clean. Final. For the first time since I pressed play on that video, the numbers made sense. Divorce, when you strip the emotion out of it, is just another kind of demolition plan. Identify the load-bearing walls, decide what you want to save, and let gravity handle the rest. My lawyer, Ellen Price, was mid-40s, direct, no fluff. We sat in her office with a conference table between us and my marriage spread out on it in pixels and paper. On her laptop, the Bachelorette video. Screenshots of Instagram DMs with Tyler. Motel confirmations and timestamps. Cropped versions of the photos, enough to prove the point, not enough to get us flagged. The paternity test, 0%. An email from Carol offering a statement. Good news, Ellen said, tapping her pen. You bought the house 2 years before you even met her. It's premarital. It stays yours unless you decide to be generous. I'm not feeling generous, I said. Oregon's no fault, she went on. We don't get to punish her for cheating. But, she turned the laptop toward me. This pattern? Short marriage, repeated infidelity, baby with someone else. This makes it very hard for her to argue for long-term support. At best, she'll push for a small financial cushion. We'll fight it. We filed. Her side tried to posture at first. Emails from her attorney about Brooke's emotional distress. About her needing stability during pregnancy. Ellen answered with attachments. Here's the video. Here's the motel schedule. Here's the 0% paternity test. Here's her own mother volunteering to testify for my client. The tone shifted fast. We settled most of it in conference rooms, not a dramatic courtroom showdown. That's how it usually goes. Still, walking into the courthouse the first time, I felt the weight of it. This was where the story got stamped and filed forever. In the end, it went almost clinically. The house, mine. My retirement, largely intact. Joint savings, split but weighted in my favor. Alimony, none. Too short a marriage, too much evidence she'd already checked out. Her? Free to chase child support from Tyler, assuming she could ever find him. They tried. Her lawyer filed notices. Tyler ghosted, changed numbers, bounced between cities. Frank dug a little more for me just out of curiosity. Turns out Brooke wasn't his first pregnancy and run story. Or his second. Word got around because it always does. You can't hide this kind of mess in a city where half the legal community drinks at the same 3 bars. Brooke's firm had a moral conduct clause tucked into their partnership track agreements. Reputation, public image, all of that. A pregnant associate in the middle of a scandal-laced divorce with evidence floating through the courthouse? Not great optics. One afternoon, a mutual contact called me. Hey man, you here? Brooke got called into a partners meeting. 30 minutes later, she was clearing out her office. Resigned for personal reasons. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just sat there in my car, hands on the wheel, and let it register. For once, I wasn't the one trying to hold the structure up while someone else swung a sledgehammer. I'd stepped away, handed the blueprints to people whose job was to enforce consequences, and walked out of the building. My life didn't collapse in those rooms. Hers did. 5 months after I hit play on that video, life felt not normal but mine. It was a Saturday in the Pearl District. Light rain outside, people in fleece and beanies, the usual Portland blend of try hard and checked out. I was at a corner table in a cafe, waiting for Megan Collins. Megan's a landscape architect I'd worked with on a hillside project. 41, divorced, blunt enough to make most people uncomfortable. She doesn't overshare and doesn't ask questions she doesn't want honest answers to. That alone made her stand out. I was early. Old habit. I sat there with a black coffee, listening to the low murmur of conversations, the hiss of the espresso machine, the clink of cups. For once, my heart wasn't racing. No impending argument, no email to dread. Just a meeting with a woman I actually liked being around. The bell over the door rang. I glanced up out of reflex. Brooke walked in. 7 months pregnant. Same face, different life. No tailored suit. Just a cheap-looking maternity dress, cardigan fraying at the cuffs. Her hair was pulled back in a way that said practical, not styled. Dark circles under her eyes. She stepped up to the counter and pulled coins from her wallet one by one. It hit me then how far she'd fallen, not as revenge fantasy, just as fact. The woman who used to argue about tasting menus was counting change for coffee. She turned, cup in hand, and scanned the room. Our eyes met. She froze. I gave her a small nod. Nothing more. She walked over slowly. Daniel. Brooke. Can I sit for a second? I shrugged at the empty chair. She lowered herself into it like everything hurt. I'm not going to drag this out, she said. Her voice was softer, stripped of courtroom polish. I'm sorry. For all of it. I ruined everything. I didn't jump in. I let her keep talking. Kevin disappeared as soon as he heard about the test, she said. Won't answer, won't pay, keeps moving. My parents help, but they barely look at me. Most of my friends vanished. Amanda checks in, but she's got her own mess and... Yeah, she let out a brittle laugh. I'm living in a one-bedroom and praying this baby sleeps. I listened. No satisfaction. No rage. Just distance. I know you probably hate me, she said. I don't, I answered. I don't really feel much about you at all anymore. That landed harder than anger would have. I believe you regret this, I added. I just don't think you regretted it when you kissed him. Or when you went to that motel the first time. Or the second. Regret showed up when everything collapsed, not when you made the choices. She swallowed, eyes wet. You're right, she whispered. No defense left. The bell over the door rang again. Megan walked in, jeans, boots, hair still damp from the rain. She saw me, smiled, and started toward our table. Brooke followed my gaze, then looked back at me. Something passed through her face. Pain, maybe, or just realization. This is someone new? She asked. Yeah, I said. Her name's Megan. Brooke nodded, blinked hard, and pushed herself to her feet. I really am sorry, Daniel, she said. I hope you get the life you deserved. I am, I said. I wish you luck with the baby, but we're done. There's nothing left to talk about. She held my eyes for a second, then turned and walked out, hand on the small of her back, coffee clutched in the other. Megan reached the table as the door closed behind Brooke. Hey, she said, dropping into the chair. Everything okay? Yeah, I said, meaning it. Everything's exactly where it needs to be. And for the first time in a long time, that didn't feel like a lie. 2 months after that coffee shop, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Brooke had the baby. A boy. Healthy. Tyler's kid, not mine. That part mattered. The picture was predictable. 1-bedroom apartment, unpaid bills, half-hearted attempts to chase child support from a guy who treated states like hotel rooms. Her parents helped just enough to keep her afloat, not enough to make her comfortable. Carol visited, holding the baby, then going home and wondering out loud where they went wrong. Amanda hanging around the edges, her own reputation dined for being the friend who watched the train wreck forming and never hit the brakes. None of it made me feel vindicated. It just looked like consequences doing what they do when you ignore them long enough. My life, meanwhile, was quiet in a way that felt earned, not empty. I moved into a loft I'd been renovating on the side, brick, steel, big windows, nothing fake. I designed it for me, not for resale value. My work table in one corner, Megan's plant sketches in another. No his and hers bullshit, just two adults with their own spaces who chose to overlap. With Megan, everything's simple because we keep it that way. Phones face up on the table not as a test, but because neither of us is hiding anything. If one of us needs space, we say it. If something feels off, we don't shove it under the rug and hope it suffocates quietly. I don't romanticize trust anymore. I don't treat it like blind faith or some magical feeling you're supposed to hand over just because you wore matching outfits in front of a crowd once. Trust, to me now, is behavior over time. It's small things adding up in the same direction. It's not, "I'd never do that to you." It's years of not doing it, especially when no one's watching. Some nights, Brooke crosses my mind. Not often. When she does, it's not rage. It's a distant mix of pity and a weird gratitude. She showed me exactly where my old blueprint was flawed. I thought if I was steady enough, loyal enough, smart enough, I could control the outcome. You can't. You can only control whether you stay in the building once you see the cracks. Sitting on my own couch in my own place, with a woman beside me who matches what she says with what she does, I can admit something I wouldn't have dared to say in the middle of it. I didn't get the marriage I thought I'd built, but I got something better. A life where I'm not begging to be chosen, where respect isn't negotiated, and where trust isn't a gamble, it's the baseline. And for a man who once thought a 32-minute video destroyed his life, here's the uncomfortable truth. Pressing play might have been the best thing that ever happened to me.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.